Well, hi again, everybody. Welcome to another episode of 100 Yards of Football. This is our draft prospect show, along with Logan Landers, our producer and engineer, Brian LeBel. I'm Harper Lebel. Thank you for tuning in. Vincent Turner is not able to be with us here today, but we are going to talk about someone who has, Brian, if you ask me, who's been able to take it. He's a great player, don't get me wrong, but getting to ride the bumpy but yet successful road of the playoff this first year. TreVeyon Henderson, the running back out of Ohio State, I think he's just dramatically increased his draft status, just like Will Howard has, into a guy that, why wouldn't I want him on my roster?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing that he does poorly. Anytime he touches the football, it's something dynamic is happening. He can make one or two guys miss, and he's a home run threat every single time the ball's in his hands.
Yeah, he's done some amazing things. Let's take a closer look at this running back out of Hopewell, Virginia. He's 5'10", he's 208 pounds. He wears number 32, as you can see, for the Ohio State Buckeyes. This past season, he had 144 carries for 1,016 yards. He averaged 7.1 yards per carry, had 10 touchdowns. What also impresses me, Brian, is he had 27 receptions for 284 yards, so 10.5 per carry out of the backfield. He only had one touchdown as a receiver, but nonetheless, you keep the sticks moving every time you throw him the ball. Last year, he only had 928 yards. He had 11 touchdowns, and he averaged 12.1 yards per reception last season on the 19 catches that he had. All in all, these are numbers that most player by himself would be very, very happy with. He had to split time with Judkins.
Yeah.
I think if I'm a general manager, I'm really delighted in the fact that he's got great numbers and he only had half the usage of what, let's say, Boise State or some of these other schools have. He's fresher. Is that a fair assessment of the way that you would look at this?
I think that's 100% fair, and I think to go even further, a lot of the backfields in the NFL are a two-back system. So you're going to have two running backs who split time, and he's already poised to be able to show he could do that, and he did that very, very well. I mean, he's averaging over 10 yards a touch. That's ridiculous. That's, the fact that he's not higher up on draft boards and people aren't talking about him more, I think it's just the fact that he did split with Judkins. But he was at times the best player on the field for the team that won the national championship on offense, and to overlook that is, in my opinion, be a little silly.
Well, he's first team All Big Ten. He's been an honorable mention previously going into this past season for all of his abilities. It's not really the accolades as much. He's a gifted runner. He is strong. He is fast. He can get yards after a carry. He can run in between the tackles. He can go outside the tackles if you needed to. And again, we mentioned a little bit earlier, he's a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield. If you're a baseball player, if you're a five-tool guy that you can throw, you can hit, you can run with hit with power, hit for average. As a running back, he fills in all the spots. He's elusive, he's patient, but he's strong and he's fast and he's a big play guy.
Yeah, I think one of his best highlights was, I want to say, Will Howard had a run against Michigan where he was the lead blocker, and he went right into somebody. He can block too. He didn't have to a lot, obviously, because, hey, I don't really want this guy blocking as much as I want him carrying the football. But one of the reasons why they threw it to him out of the backfield as much as they did is because, hey, we got to get him the ball in any situation, whatever it is. Get him the ball, let him get downfield, make plays, and he was elite at doing that. And Ohio State, with the best team in the country, said, hey, this is our guy in key situations that have panned out really well for him.
Compare him to some of the other running backs that are going to be on the board. Where does he fit in right now? And what do you think a good combine run, if he takes a tenth of a second off, where did that move him?
Well, Ohio State has him sub 4.4 already. He's 4.39. He's, for being able to run a 4.39, 5'10", 208, he's still pretty big. He runs a lot bigger than I think what he's listed as well. G&T's the talk of the town. He was a guy, he's the Heisman conversation, and a lot of people like him. And, he was just feeding carries and just putting up monster numbers week in and week out. But like you said earlier, if I'm a scout, if I'm a GM, I'm looking at him saying, hey, this guy can produce too, and he doesn't have nearly the amount of hits. He doesn't have nearly the amount of carries. He's going to be a lot fresher. And if I can go get him, day 2, I mean, I don't really see him maybe dropping to day 3, but, why would you not do that?
You mentioned Ashton Jeanty with Boise State. Let's play a hypothetical game. If Ashton Jeanty was playing behind Ohio State's line, would he have different numbers? And if we take TreVeyon Henderson and move him to Ohio or to Boise State, does he have 2,000 yards with that team if he's the only guy and he's getting close to 400 carries?
I mean, all purpose, I don't see how he doesn't, because he already had over 1,250 yards splitting time. He's splitting. And there were a lot of times where Judkins was the first guy out of the field, when they line up at 12:01 on Saturday. So I think he's fantastic between the tackles. I think he's probably the best runner in the sport. I think if you put him behind Ohio State's offensive line, yeah, I think the numbers improve a lot, but the sheer amount of carries, it just makes it difficult to see how much. But Henderson, if he was the guy anywhere else, if he's at some smaller school, if he's at Boise State, it's hard to not see him eclipse maybe 2,000 total yards. I think he's that good.
Well, a lot of things that everybody needs to work on. What are some of the things? Injuries may be a part of. You can't work on that, but I'm just saying, pass pro or blocking down the field. You mentioned that he does some things really well. What are the things consistently that you show and they go, I mean, he just needs to do this a little bit better, and then he would be right there as the number one, number two guy on our board.
I think for most of it being a 3-down back, I think he's got the tools to be able to make plays when he's got the ball in his hand. But I think being able to make plays when the ball is in your hand, being able to stick your head in there and fill a gap where a linebacker comes in on a blitz and, saving your quarterback from getting hit and giving him 1 or 2 extra seconds to get the football down the field. Those are game changers, especially at the next level. I think TreVeyon can do that. He hasn't had to do it a ton, but I think that's something where if a team is going to draft him as a 3-down back, probably still split time because everybody does now. But if you're going to fill that role, you have to be able to block. You have to be able to do the nitty-gritty stuff. You got to be able to do, the dirty stuff at the line of scrimmage sometimes. I think he's capable of it. I think he'll get better at it at the next level. I just need to see a little more of it.
Yeah, getting 10 or 12 yards out of the backfield, being that check down guy, that speaks volumes. You have to account for him once the play starts. You got 4 guys going down the field, and even if he has to block first, if he's a dump off guy, and being able to keep the sticks moving with the average numbers that he's got, what a benefit. And he certainly did at Ohio State. He's a champion. He knows how hard work pays off. I think he'd be a hard worker at any professional level, and the sky's the limit for this young man. Final thoughts about TreVeyon Henderson.
I think there's a realistic chance. I mean, some people have him as the 4th running back on the board right now. I think there's a realistic chance he might be a 2nd or 3rd round pick. And if that's the case, you have someone who maybe has a decent offensive line and a good offense around him. I think they're going to get a steal because I think he can play in any scheme. He can come in, he'll fit in seamlessly, and I think he's going to produce out the gate.
Yeah, I think one of the neat things, if he gets past the 1st round, which probably because of the position right now, not because of the talent, it's the position. People are going, no, I need a edge rusher, or I need a offensive lineman before I need a running back. But a guy like that, boy, if you get him in the 2nd round and he goes to a team like Kansas City, let's say, for example, or Buffalo, just he can make a difference and be a guy. I don't have to be the man, but I'm part of the team, and just make us that much better offensively. You're right. I think the steal is the right word for him because someone's going to get him. And I don't think Atlanta needs one right now like him, but I'm just saying his fit somewhere else to go to a Chargers or even a Panthers, another team that would really benefit from that. So TreVeyon Henderson, running back out of Ohio State, bright future in front of you, young man. Start saving your money because you're going to make a lot of it. All right. You're going to be able to make a difference in your community, in your family, and obviously for the football team that you end up playing for. So for Logan Landers, our producer and engineer, Brian LeBel, who is our guest here today, Vincent Turner is not able to be with us, but he will be returning next week. I'm Harper Lebel saying thank you for tuning in to our Draft Prospect Show. This is 100 Yards of Football. Thank you, everybody. Have a fantastic day.